Hi all, welcome back to new session of appreciating drama. Today's topic that is Macbeth, a film adaptation. Macbeth or the Tragedy of Macbeth is a 1971 historical drama film directed by Roman Polanski and co-written by Polanski and Kenneth Branagh, a film adaptation of William Shakespeare's tragedy of the same name, and it tells the story of the Highland lord who becomes king of Scotland through treachery and murder. The film stars John Finch as the title character and Francesca Annis as Lady Macbeth, noted for their relative youth as actors. And themes of historical recurrence, greater pessimism, and internal ugliness in physically beautiful characters are added to Shakespeare's story of a moral decline, which is presented in a more realistic style. Polanski opted to create an adaptation of Macbeth as a means of copying with the highly publicized Manson family murder of his wife Sharon Tate, and finding difficulty obtaining sponsorship from major studios. At the production was founded by Playboy Enterprises, and filming was troubled by poor weather around the British Isles. And Macbeth was screened out of competition at the 1972 Cannes Film Festival and was a commercial failure in the United States. The film was controversial for its depiction of graphic violence and nudity, but has received generally positive reviews since its release and was named Best Film by the National Board of Review. And the themes and the interpretations of the movie Macbeth. Professor James Morrison wrote Macbeth's theme of murderous ambition and fit in with Polanski's filmography, and saw similarities to Orson Welles' 1948 film version of Macbeth in downplaying psychology and reviving the primitive edge. However, unlike Welles, Polanski chooses naturalism over expressionism. It's a very important point. Polanski chooses naturalism over expressionism. Author Eva Mizeska wrote that despite supposed realism in presenting soliloquies as visuals, Polanski Macbeth was absurdist, not depicting history as an explanation for current events, but as a vicious circle of crimes and miseries. Each coronation occurs after the predecessors in violently dispatched, and guest and host always betray each other, with Polanski adding Rose leaving Fifth's castle doors open. And Professor Denny Williams read the film as not only Polanski's reflection on the murder of Sharon Tate, but on wider issues such as the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. and the Vietnam War. And Francisca Royster similarly argues the use of English and Celtic cultures in the clothes and culture of the 1960s and 1970s, pointing to the publication of The Lord of the Rings in the US and the music of Led Zeppelin ties the film's past to the present. While Playboy Enterprises' role was mainly to provide funding, Williams also saw Polanski's Lady Macbeth as embodying Playboy mythos and paradoxes, at times warm and sexy, and at times a domestic servant, and at times femme fatale. In one scene, Macbeth's court hosts bear baiting, a form of entertainment in the Middle Ages in which a bear and dog are pitted against each other. Williams suggested the scene communicates Macbeth and Lady Macbeth's growing callousness after taking power, while Kenneth S. Rothwell and Morrison matched the scene to Shakespeare's Macbeth, describing himself as bear-like. And Macbeth's summary, likewise in Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, Act 4, and Act 5. Okay. Three witches tell the Scottish General Macbeth that he will be King of Scotland. Encouraged by his wife, and Macbeth kills the king, becomes the new king, and kills more people out of paranoia. Civil war erupts to overthrow Macbeth, resulting in more death. This is the plot summary, and next one, that is Act 1 summary. On a bleak Scottish moorland, Macbeth and Banquo, two of King Duncan's generals, discover three strange women, that means witches. The witches prophesy that Macbeth will be promoted twice to Thane of Cawdor. That means Thane of Cawdor, that means a rank of the aristocracy bestowed by grateful kings, and King of Scotland. Okay, and Banquo's descendants will be kings, but Banquo isn't promised any kingdom himself. The generals want to hear more, but the Wyatt sisters disappear. Soon afterwards, King Duncan names Macbeth Thane of Cawdor as a reward for his success in this recent battle. The promotion seems to support the prophecy. The king then proposes to make a brief visit that night to Macbeth's castle at Inverness. And Lady Macbeth receives news from her husband about the prophecy and his new title, and she vows to help him become king by whatever means are necessary. Then Act 2. Macbeth returns to his castle, followed almost immediately by King Duncan. And the Macbeth plot together to kill Duncan and wait until everyone is asleep. At the appointed time, Lady Macbeth gives the guard drugged wine so Macbeth can enter and kill the king, and he regrets this almost immediately. But his wife reassures him, and she leaves the bloody daggers by the dead king just before Macduff, a nobleman, arrives. When Macduff discovers the murder, Macbeth kills the drunken guards in a show of rage and retribution. And Duncan's son Malcolm and Donalbain flee and fearing for their own lives. But they are nevertheless blamed for the murder. Then Act 3, Macbeth becomes a king of Scotland but is plagued by feeling of insecurity, and he remembers the prophecy that Banquo's descendant will inherit the throne and arranges for Banquo and his son Fleance to be killed. In the darkness, Banquo is murdered, but his son escapes the assassins. At his state banquet that night, Macbeth sees the ghost of Banquo and worries the courtiers with his mad response. Lady Macbeth dismisses the court and unnecessarily or unsuccessfully tries to calm her husband. Then Act 4, Macbeth seeks out the witches who say that he will be safe until a local wood, a Birnam wood, marches into battle against him, and he also need not fear anyone born of woman. That means the sound secure, no loopholes here. They also prophesy that the Scottish succession will still come from Banquo's son. Macbeth embarks on a reign of terror and slaughtering many, and including Macduff family. And Macduff had gone to seek Malcolm. one of Duncan's son who fled. At the court of the English king, Malcolm is young and unsure of himself, but Macduff, pained with grief, and persuades him to lead an army against Macbeth. Then Act 5, the last act, that is Act 5, Macbeth feels safe in his remote castle at Dunsinane until he is told that Birnam Wood is moving towards him and Malcolm's army is carrying branches from the forest as camouflage for their assault on Macbeth's stronghold. Meanwhile, an overwrought and unconsciousness ridden unconscious ridden Lady Macbeth walks in her sleep and tells her secrets to her doctor. She commits suicide as the final battle commences, and Macbeth hears of Lady Macbeth's suicide and mourns. And this is all about the play and the film of Macbeth. Okay, then today's topic, that is today's work, that is first one, explain the characteristics of Macbeth and Lady Macbeth and Banquo. The next point, that is explain the importance of the title Macbeth. Okay, and that's all about today's class. Thank you. Have a nice day. Happy learning. Thank you all.